Good with the YouTube, y'all already know. Big Flocko with the convict's perspective, and I'm gonna smash, dash, slide on through with a little bit of energy. Please hit the like, subscribe, comment, and do all those things to help support this channel, and hit that bell notification for future fire content. Now, once again, currently there was another MS-13 high-ranking gang member that was snatched up trying to cross the border. Freddy Ivan Andres Parada was recently hemmed up in the border, man, just on March 7th, right, of 2024. Now, he's been wanted by the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of New York since December of 2020. Currently, the 48-year-old El Salvadorian national, who goes by the nickname Lucky de Parkview, is being held at a federal jail in San Diego. Being transferred to a New York facility to where he could await trial on a federal case. Now, MS-13 is being recognized as a transnational gang nowadays, which means that they're not just a United States gang, they're all into other nations and whatnot, okay? Now, he was allegedly part of the Rona National governing body. The 12 Apostles of the Devil is another reference that they use. Now, the Rona National and the hierarchy ruling body was basically formed around 2002, right? In a Salvadorian prison. It was dubbed the 12 Apostles of the Devil. And it operates pretty much as a board of directors, right? They give all, like almost like a mesa. You know, they have different territories. They have different people they put in place as far as leadership positions and whatnot. See, this is around the time when a lot of the MS-13 started to have issues with the Mexican Mafia, with the MA. As we know, there was a killing 2 years ago in Beaumont, right? That pretty much changed the whole element of where they were going to house all the MS-13. Now, even though the MS-13 has roots in California, as we know, the El Salvadorian gang, known as La Mara Salvatrucha, started to allow other individuals from like Honduras and all these other countries that are out there in a central part of, you know, America, join the Salvadorian gang. So they have different chapters in different locations, leaderships and whatnot, where they all work parallel as one. And a lot of that happened when they started to basically deport individuals in the early 90s that were from mainly MS-13 and 18th Street due to the gang violence, because both those gangs were open to having individuals from other countries like, you know, Honduras and El Salvador and all these other countries, which make up both the MS-13 and 18th Street. That's why both these gangs have become transnational. A lot of their leadership actually were members of the MS-13 clique in Los Angeles. Many of them went to prison and started to learn the different structures and how to organize and how to commit illicit activities, and that's what has built up the MS-13. Now, there is no type of really relationship or alliance with them, right, and the Mexican Mafia no more. Now, if you're an MS-13 member from California, from Los Angeles, right, maybe surrounding areas, the Mexican Mafia pretty much got some under their umbrella. But those that are pretty much transnational into other states, they fall basically under the Rona National. That's who their leadership is. And with all the different incidents that have happened between the MS-13 and Sureños and MA, they've currently put all MS-13 members in one prison. They're all being housed in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, which I believe is a USP, of course, but I think there's an FCI there, but I believe that they're all being housed in basically the USP Lewisburg, unless these MS-13 members are loyal to the MA. Now, one of the things I noticed about MS-13, why they're always getting indicted, is the United States government pretty much has them not just as a gang or anything like that, but pretty much as a terrorist group they're trying to label them as. And that's based upon some of the stuff that they've done in Honduras, Guatemala, Salvador, where they've corrupted the politicians and infiltrated to get things that they want. You know, so also out there, they've taught some of the youngsters out there, right, military exercises and whatnot, something that takes them on a whole higher level than just a regular street gang. Now, it's interesting that many of these that sit on, you know, the basically council or whatever committee, the board of directors for this, you know, group, used to be from MS-13 cliques in California, in the Los Angeles area, but no longer want to contribute to the MA. So you would think that would put a lot of individuals from MS-13 kind of, you know, in a bad situation, because like I said, a lot of them in California, they're still rocking under the MA's bandera, right? But other states, it's a whole other agenda. They're collecting dues for their gang and only their gang. They're sending people out there to create cells and different chapters of MS-13, right, in other states to benefit financially its leadership back home. And I guess the final incident that happened in Beaumont, right, was pretty much what separated them to where they're no longer going to be on the lines with Sureños. So that's going to put some people like in an uncompromised situation to where, say you're from MS-13 member in California, you're doing state time, right? Okay, but you have family members that are MS-13 or whatnot back home in Salvador. If they give you directives, you're still going to have to carry out the directives of what the MA says. They're going to come first and foremost. So it pretty much puts them at odds. Because today, my understanding is the MS-13 in California, or particularly in LA, they still follow under the Trece, under the MA's leadership. Now, like the Malavia and, who was green lighted back in the 80s and 90s, around that time frame, right? The MS-13, if they were green lit and they said, FDMA or whatnot, they could probably still exist and hold their own because their barrios are pretty deep right there and there's so many different clicas. But like I said, it would really affect them because every hood would be targeting them. But the MS-13, they've always, when it came to treachery and urban warfare, right, they've always rose to the occasion. That's like their specialty. And like I said, it's just been going on for like 20 years. And it finally came to the head recently to where the feds decided to separate all MS-13 members that are pretty much under the Rona National and the Sureños. They're not going to walk the lines. They tried to one time put them on the yard right there in Coleman. Was it Coleman? Somewhere down in Florida, right? With the Norteños for a minute. This was a yard that Mad Dog was on. Mad Dog was approached, hey, can we put you guys out there? Mad Dog said, yeah. He pretty much then gave the orders to start digging up pieces. Now, in the process of digging up pieces, right, either an inmate or correctional staff observed the Norteños doing that. So that stopped them from putting the MS-13 out on that main line. Now, that was about, 16 years ago, 14 years ago. Could there be a change? Could they actually end up putting the MS-13 on yards with Norteños? I don't know. I don't know what the relationship is like with the Texas cars. That's what's going to really dictate any of that. But for now, they're in one penitentiary by themselves, basically. Now, the thing is what happened basically in Beaumont, what was it, February, March of 2022, right? Eventually, someone's going to answer for that. They're not going to leave that issue unattended to. So whether it happens, tomorrow or 10, 15 years from now, there's going to be a response to that whole incident that occurred. It's hard to do so when all leadership are out there in, like I said, Salvador, Honduras, and places like that, and that they're being separated in these federal prisons. Now, the MS-13 are in Mexico now, and they do have a working relationship with several of the groups that are over there. So that could get a little interesting. But at the end of the day, business is business. Green's going to override any beef when it comes to these groups, period. But in the last 4 or 5 months, so they've arrested 2 individuals that were considered high-ranking members of the Rona National, part of the MS-13. So to me, it seems like you have like I said, a group that falls under almost like the state fed issue that the NF has had, right? Where you got these individuals that are part of this are their guidelines, and they're not going to answer to anybody over here. That's what you pretty much got going between the MS-13, the ones that are in other states, or that are committed to the Rona National, and they're basically their committee, council, whatever you want to call it, and the MA. It puts people in a fucked up situation, man. Think about it, man. I've been wondering how that's worked, man. If anybody's been hit just because they're an MS-13 member and, they've been loyal to people over there, or they have family members that are high-ranking over there. The shit could get real ugly real fast. People don't realize that. The more of these individuals are being locked up, like he's in San Diego right now, the more communications are going on, and you're going to see what's going to arise from it. Now, the MS-13 does have the numbers in the feds to pretty much go off on their own. That's what people don't realize. And I think as they start to get bigger and bigger due to federal indictments, that's why all this shit's happened. There was discussions about, 20 years ago with the MS-13 and MA where they were trying to tax the MS-13 members out of state. That shit got shut down. The MS-13 were not doing it. and that almost caused a war back then. So all this stuff's been going on for a long time, but every time they try to sit there and mediate and get the issue out the way and figure out what's going to happen, some type of indictment happens. Individuals get moved or they get deemed, and there's never ever been no final stance between these groups. At first, I thought there was a chance that maybe they could, go off on their own, kind of like how Matavia is there. They could program on some yards with Southsiders and whatnot. They have no issues. They don't pay no taxes, but they're technically not Sureños. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Maybe a few hoods pay taxes, I've been told. I thought maybe there was potential for that, but once there's blood and there's death, it creates a whole another scenario. And until the big homies from down south get the revenge that they want, I don't see any of that happening anytime soon. With that said, it's your boy Flacco, Convict's Perspective. I'm gone.